Hi everyone, I'm Scott Schneider. This is Stereo Niche. This week it's another vintage speaker review. This one comes from Audio Physics. Stick around. Alright, so if you saw my last video, you saw that these just got here. These are the Avanti III from Audio Physics, or Physics, not Physics. So the Audio Avanti III is the third step down from their top of the line model, which was the Medea, M-E-D-E-A. That speaker retails for around $50K, so not an inexpensive speaker. Those are prices obviously around 2001 when this speaker was released, so that model line. Below that was a speaker called the Caldera. That retailed for around $20,000. These came in at around $11,000, and this was the standard finish on it. It looks to be, in my head, it would have been one that was an upgrade, but actually this was the standard, the McIntosh ebony. And if you wanted a cherry or maple, that was actually another $1,000 upgrade to get that finish. Another upgrade would also have been the binding posts on the back, which this one has an extra set of binding posts. So it has two sets of binding posts. That was an upgrade. Standard would have been a single set of binding posts. So this is called a 3.5 way configuration. And it comes, the half comes in, so apparently as I understand it, these two mids are crossed over at slightly different points. So for that reason, it's called a 3.5 way. They use standard drivers from, manufacturers that are specific for speaker drivers. However, they do work with them to tweak them slightly for their model. So this is a VIFA or VIFA tweeter, and it was tweaked specifically for this model. Audio Physics works directly with them to tweak an existing model to their specifications. So not something you can just pull off the shelf and replace. In addition to these front firing drivers, there are 4 6.5-inch woofers in the base here. 2 on each side, and shoring up the bottom end and doing it quite well, which we'll get to in a little bit. So I think that's pretty much it for the overview. This is a 4 ohm speaker, by the way, and sensitivity is 89, I believe, but I'll review that again in the next segment. So take a look now at the how they look, and we'll come back in a few minutes and we'll talk about how they sound. All right, you got to see it up close. It's a looker. It's definitely a looker. I can't really say much about anything negative about them. It's because to me they hit sort of all the check boxes on looks. That's going to reflect here in my ratings. But let's go through some of the basics first. Audio Physic Avanti III. These retailed for $11,000. This is a Macassar Ebony. Again, somebody will correct me because I'm probably messed that up. They are a 4-ohm speaker with 89 decibel sensitivity and a 3.5 way. So, you know, kind of a cool, unique speaker. All right, let's get into the style side of things. Well, I said this over and over. I'm just a sucker for wood veneers, but man, this wood veneer to me just screams exotic. Now, it might be too much for some. I get that. It might be too busy, but I love this, you know, the sort of butterfly effect they did here using this. And to me, it's just sort of exotic, and I just absolutely love it. And I'm still surprised this was the base standard wood veneer, that an upgrade would have been cherry or maple. To me, it would have been, you know, the other way around. But anyway, I think that kicks it off with just being so cool. They have a fairly small footprint, you know, not massive, and they've got a cool 7-degree slant, and it just to me speaks contemporary and cool and exotic all at the same time. So for that, ended up giving it an 18 versus the style for the Advent is a 13. So quite a bit of difference there. Oh, I did want to say that while it's not so heavy and awkward like the teal speaker is massive and extremely heavy and hard to move around even within the same footprint. These you can move around fairly easily, you know, in a small geography here, you know, to position them. But moving them from room to room is a little bit more challenging because of this slant. When you put them on a dolly, the you know, by the top of them is, you know, at an angle on the side of the dolly, so it becomes more awkward. You need to strap them down very well and be careful when you do. There are some protrusions here and things, but wrap them up and then secure them, and they're not heavy in a way that makes it hard to move, even up and down stairs. That's not too difficult to do, but you just want to strap it down very well to do that. Outside of that, moving them around in the same, you know, area, pretty easy to do, not hard. And other than that, that's the only caveat around the style side of things. But an 18, that's pretty well up there for scoring on a large speaker. All right, moving in the sound side of things, imaging and soundstage. And you know, I feel like almost like the Joker. I just want to have that big smile. I had one of those experiences, which I don't get very often, but when you do, it's sort of like, you know, the hair on your arms kind of stand up. When I first turned these on, I was sort of taken aback because I was hearing things that I just hadn't heard in a while, you know, different things, and sort of my ears weren't quite ready for it. And I had to sit down and let things settle a bit. And it's because there was so much going on. And it's amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So lots of dynamics were coming here. By my notes here for imaging and soundstage were stellar, phenomenal. Each driver feels like it's its own instrument. Separation is amazing. The dynamics, wow. I just put wow. It's a bit of sensory overload. You have a lot coming at you. You have a lot of separation. You got a lot of music floating out there, and I'm going to get to the other components here, but everything else is adding to all of that of an experience. So it's quite amazing. And I think this might be the highest I've given on an imaging score. So I gave it 19 out of 20. The only thing I can have experienced that might or is comparable are some electrostats, and that might be the only thing that ever, you know, hits a 20 if it does. But that's the only thing that gets close in that kind of impression in that experience. So a 19 for imaging and soundstage, whereas the Advent gets a 13. So moving into the lows, and this is where it helped the imaging side of things. On the low side, remember now it has 4 6.5-inch drivers, 2 on each side, and they're working. They're doing something. My notes here were not quite subwoofer levels, but so satisfying. It just hits that low-end sweet spot for the most part. Other than the only reason I would say that you would ever want a sub, especially with these, is if you're watching some home theater. But for music, I just don't think you want to go any more than what these can deliver. To me, they're just absolutely great. I mean, they just are. They just put it out there. In fact, I said no sub needed ever. I just don't. For me, it's just not something I would need. I didn't often feel like the Advents really needed a subwoofer, but after you hear them next to these, you think, wow, these things are so lacking. They need some help. But these certainly do not. They deliver it in spades to me, and I don't think that anyone would really ever say, wow, got to have some sub for this. I just don't think so, unless it's, again, for strictly home theater use. All right, so moving into the mids. My notes here were sublime, seamless, and smooth. And that's true. I mean, they're awesome. Voices have an almost, I put eerie sense of realism. And it just comes through. They tweak these specifically to complement each other, and I certainly felt that. It certainly felt like there was just adequate or more than adequate coming through for the mid-range, especially for voices. Obviously, with that separation and imaging qualities that it has, the singers are just spitting on you, spittle and everything. It was amazing, and I couldn't say that I could say that I've experienced similarly appealing mid ranges, and because of that, I couldn't go all the way to a 19. I struggled with that. It was almost a 19. I ended up settling for an 18, which is pretty far up there. So that's compared to the Advents at a 16. So moving into the highs, I put lustrous, suave. I was trying to find some new words. Silky, I'm tired of using silky for a tweeter, but suave, musical, but I didn't find it better than other tweeters. And so but when I go head to head with some other speakers, which I'll talk about in a second, maybe I can differentiate them a little more. But for right now, I ended up giving the high end here a 17 versus the Advent at a 16. So all totaled up, these got the highest score that I've given so far at a 91. So that's pretty significant. The Advents come in at a 72. No surprise there. My summary notes were just nothing to dislike. Not overly large, but deliver a dynamic experience. Damn near the perfect speaker. Can't argue with that. I mean, there's just not it's not cumbersome. The Teal was a very large speaker that's hard to move around. Once you get it there, it's a great speaker, but man, just dealing with the size of it, it's a challenge. You really have to think about that. Here, you can move these around fairly easily, and the experience you get is pretty amazing. So this has set a new high point, for my ratings, and because I have now quite a few high-end speakers that are sort of in the upper echelons of my rankings now, they've far distanced themselves from the Advent, who is a wonderful contender. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start I've got a bookshelf-sized rating and a standard baseline there for that in the realistic minimum 7. I'm going to use this going forward just for, I'll say, my mid-range speakers, and now I'm going to have a higher end level. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo these again, come back with another valuation, and put all of those speakers head to head I have to determine which one's going to be my baseline, but that will be a whole new series of ratings, and I'll come back and do those. Then I think I'll find out and be able to better give you some information and feedback on those areas I think are harder to discern on high end versus compared to others, and the mid-range too. So we'll see how that pans out, but just a heads up that I want to start sort of a new series on just say higher end speakers. I won't do it specifically by MSRP, but that will certainly be part of it because you're just going to get a lot more for that. So I think that's it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I can tell you I did. It's one of those, you know, fun times when you get something like this that kind of sets a new bar. It's just exciting. It's a lot of fun. So I had a great time with them. They're going to go back in here, you know, and be in here for a while. But I want to make sure if you want to not miss the next video, hit subscribe. Want to get notified so you make sure you know when that video comes out. Hit that notification bell. And hit a thumbs up. That helps a lot. I haven't really mentioned that too often, but a good thumbs up certainly helps with getting those videos out there and, you know, getting them seen. So appreciate all the support, and lots more coming in 2024. So thank you guys for tuning in.